with in our government, and Erica and I have been very focused on that since coming to government. And our focus for this year has been to make sure that we're getting our kids to school, but actually when they're here, we need to do a much better job of teaching them the basics brilliantly. When we see only 1 out of 2 of our Year 8 students arrive at high school at the standard they need to be at on reading, when we see 4 out of 5 of our students arriving at high school where they need to, not where they need to be at on mathematics, that's a real problem for us, and that's why we're putting so much emphasis back onto what we call structured literacy, which is teaching our kids one way, same way, every day to read, and then likewise our structured mathematics program being pulled forward to commence in January next year. It's really important because if we want to be able to be leaders in artificial intelligence and agri-science and to have the engineers we need to build 4-lane freeways up to the north, we need to make sure that we're teaching this generation of kids incredibly well the basics, so they've got those foundational skills in place so that they can then drive their knowledge and their education from that point onwards. So there's nothing more important to New Zealand's future than our education system. We have incredible teachers in the system, but the system has let them down over a period of time, and we now need to fix it, and that's why we put such a big store on back to basics over the course of the first year in government. Erica, I know you're doing a great job, but thank you very much, and with that, do you want to make your little announcement?
Thank you. It's really nice to be here at my local school, Sherwood Primary. And today what we've seen is young people doing structured mathematics and using some of the maths resources that will be rolled out to over 400,000 children next year, which we're extraordinarily proud of. We also saw structured literacy as well. Every parent wants to know that their children are getting the best start in life, and we want that too. But we also know that there are a number of young people who are behind in their learning when it comes to literacy and mathematics, and we want them to accelerate their learning. And so a while ago, we announced that we're taking the reading recovery funding and we're putting it into structured literacy interventions. And what we found was that we were hugely oversubscribed because lots of schools wanted to get on board with structured literacy, and we had 200 schools that we weren't able to fill those structured literacy positions in. And I worked very closely with the Primary Principals Collective Union, and we went back and we found some extra money, and we are now making sure that every single school that applied is now having that structured literacy intervention staffing allocation in their school. Now, similarly with the maths, you will remember maybe about a month ago I did a postcab with the Prime Minister, and we talked about the need for intermediate school children who were behind in their mathematics to catch up, and we announced a pilot scheme of tuition 4 times a week to catch some of those kids who are really far behind up before they hit high school. We were again inundated with schools who wanted to be part of that, and so we have upped the numbers by 1,000. So instead of having 2,000 in our pilot next year, we'll now have 3,000, and we will look to see how that goes over 12 weeks, looking to roll it out over the rest of next year, so that we've got young people who are hitting high school at curriculum, ready to learn, and we couldn't be more proud.
Yeah. With that, happy to take your questions.
Prime Minister, how are you doing after your crash, and can you tell us about it?
It's all fine. Very minor incident, and all good.
You got a scuff mark on your jacket? Is that
No, that is actually being at a Being Bold conference and giving and having a lot of women wish me well and give me a hug, and it's actually Makeup Foundation. So just so you know.
So no injuries?
No injuries. All fine. All fine.
Minister as well?
All good. Everyone's good. Look, it was just a bit of a shock, but it was all good. We're all fine.
Is the car a write-off?
I don't know. It's all fine. You have to ask TIA. Yeah, but no, it's all good. It's honestly, it was. These things happen, and everyone in our team handled it so professionally and so well. Yeah.
Was that in Auckland or Wellington?
Wellington. Yeah.
Just some questions on the COVID inquiry. When can we expect the report into the COVID Royal Commission inquiry to be released?
The Minister receives the report at 2 o'clock today, and it gets released immediately.
Oh, wonderful. Professor Tony Blakely says that mandates for health workers, borders and prisons were justified. Do you agree with that?
Well, again, I haven't seen the report. It's only the government's only receiving it at 2 o'clock. I appreciate the chair's probably got out a bit ahead of himself in the delivery of the report. But in fairness, the minister needs to receive the report at 2 o'clock. We'll digest it from that point on. I don't want to talk about the report without having seen it.
With just reflecting on what happened in New Zealand in that time, are there things that you look back on and think, I could have handled this better?
Well, I've only been in government for 12 months, so yeah, it was. Well, the point of Well, the point of both of the inquiries is, we've got phase one, which is what this report represents, and we've also asked for a much broader investigation into issues associated with COVID as well, in what we call phase two. So this is obviously the report that's coming out of phase one. We've got broader terms of reference where 13,000 New Zealanders were actually consulted on the kinds of questions that they think should also be asked, so that we don't get in a situation where the government's marking its own homework, and actually we want that independent assessment of what did we do well and what do we not do so well, so that we can learn and take that forward into the future. But in fairness, the Minister hasn't received the report. I haven't seen it either, and it'd be premature for me to comment too much further on it.
Are you confident that our health system is resilient, prepared if something like that were to happen here again?
Healthcare. It's a system that already demands $30 billion of New Zealand's government spending. Our government put a record amount of spending into healthcare, another $17 billion over the next 3 budgets at the last budget. We're working incredibly hard to now say we'll put all that money in. We've got to make sure we get the workforce in place, we've got to get the targets in place, and we've got to make sure ultimately we get the results. That's why we put a commissioner into Health New Zealand, to make sure that we build a high-quality, high-performing organisation to deliver the results that Kiwis need to see. I would just say in health, if I can make the plug, is that we've seen a whooping cough epidemic be announced this week, and that is a really good reminder to parents and grandparents to just get your kids vaccinated, and for pregnant women in particular to get vaccinated. There is nothing more tragic than when you see a brand new newborn baby and we cannot treat that baby between 0 and 6 weeks. And it doesn't need to happen. We live in New Zealand. The immunisations are available. Just go to your pharmacist and get immunised. And I just want to encourage everybody to do that, because I think as parents we have to take responsibility to say, this is a little one that's been gifted to you. You need to look after them, and the decent thing to do is make sure they're up to speed with all their vaccinations.
Luxon, did the COVID vaccine mandates contribute to the demise of social cohesion in New Zealand?
Well, as you know, it was a pretty divisive time towards the end there, as was evidenced by the parliamentary protests, and there'll be a range of views on all sides of it. We need to learn from the experience, and that's why we've put, the previous government started the Royal Commission of Inquiry. We're also expanding the terms of reference so that we actually fulsomely get the good, the bad and the ugly of what went well and what didn't go so well, and what can we learn from should it ever happen to us again.
Knowing
Sorry, you keep going.
What you know now, would you ever implement a mandated vaccine system in your government?
Look, I'm not going to comment on that because I wasn't in the government at that time. Obviously, it's a hypothetical question, and I'm not prepared to do that. And in fairness, I want to be able to see the reports and understand, that fully, and we'll continue that work.
Do you think that the mandates were drawn out too long?
My general thought is that with respect to COVID, the initial part of it was, personally, my view was that it was handled pretty well. As COVID carried on, New Zealand stayed locked down too long and were too slow coming out of it. And as a result, we felt the pain of that because every other country in the world moved on, and New Zealand was still very, very stuck. And so, we didn't open up our economy, didn't open up our borders sufficiently or fast enough, and some of that has contributed to the economic, pain and suffering that people are experiencing today. If you think about, the monetary policy settings around printing money, essentially that happened at that period of time, that built into huge amounts of inflation. And when you think about some of our sectors that we're trying to build back, we've been a beat behind, but we're catching up fast.
Speaking to the Post, Winston Peters suggested you were struggling, though not in a bad way.
I love Winston.
How do you respond to that? Are you struggling?
No, I'm absolutely loving this job. I mean, we have a tough situation. I do want to acknowledge it's been a tough time for New Zealanders. That is the function of a hangover of very bad economic management. And that is the reality that this generation of politicians are having to learn, is the lessons from 35 years ago, which is to make sure we get good government spending in place, keep inflation under control, so our interest rates stay low, so we can grow our economy and keep people in jobs. And so, it's been tough and challenging for New Zealanders, but no, I'm loving the job.
Prime Minister, can I ask you about these elevated levels of arsenic in Auckland's water? Is the government in a panic mode, as I mean to say? What assurances can you give people?
Well, you would have seen last night, it was announced by both the Hamilton District Council and Watercare here in Auckland that there are elevated levels of arsenic in the Waikato River. I just would say to everybody, arsenic happens naturally in New Zealand, and it's in our water because of often geothermal activity and a range of things. There's a slight elevation above the threshold that we would normally expect to see it at. It is not a public risk health. The water is safe to drink. Having having said all of that, Simeon Brown last night has reached out to the Water Services Authority and asked that they make sure they monitor the decisions of Water Care, but also of Hamilton District Council, to make sure that if there's any change in that situation, that there is constant, transparent communication to the New Zealand people about that. So I know people will be alarmed about that. It's a slight elevation of very, very small numbers, as you would imagine, and Hamilton District Council and Water Care, with the support of the Water Services Authority, will continue to monitor it very closely. But there is no public risk to health, and the water is safe to drink.
So I take it you've been briefed on the situation?
Yes, yes, yes.
And will you be, have you spoken, or will you be speaking with Water Care sponsors here in Auckland?
I don't need to. Essentially, our system is set up with the Water Services Authority, which is the monitoring arm to make sure that the district councils who are responsible for drinking water, that they are adhering to the standards that we have set down in legislation, and also that their processes are being activated in the right way so that New Zealanders are fully informed, particularly Hamiltonians and Aucklanders. But I just want to reassure everybody, as you've heard the authorities say this morning, the local authorities, that there is no danger to public health, and the water is safe to drink, but we will keep monitoring the situation.
Can I just say, School Bill is going to ring any minute.
Okay.
Any last questions?
School.
Just a quick question.
Sorry, yes.
Yes.
Just on the Royal Abuse and Care inquiry, the government's missed the deadline to report back its responses to each of the recommendations.
Yes.
Was 4 months not long enough?
We said a while ago that 4 months was never going to be long enough. The Royal Commission took years, six long years, and 4 months. We indicated very early on we would not be able to get through the recommendations in that short period of time. We have knocked off 28 of those, and we are working on more of them through the Omnibus Bill, through legislation, going through different ministerial portfolios. It is going to take some time, and we did signal that early on.
When will you report back? Do you know?
We're going to report back certainly next year on that anniversary date of the apology, but I will be providing reports back to Cabinet regularly to keep Cabinet briefed.
Do you accept that this is going to be another kick to the guts for survivors who have already waited?
I don't think so at all. I think survivors should have every confidence in this government that we take the report seriously. You saw that in the Prime Minister's very heartfelt and sincere apology, which was a monumental occasion, but also in the steps that we've taken in addressing those 28 recommendations, and also with the Omnibus Bill. You saw the Lake Alice, two of those announcements that we've already made, and now we're working at pace on the redress package.
And just on the announcement today, Minister,
yes.
Where is the extra money coming from for literacy?
We had an underspend, basically a staffing underspend, and so we sort of looked down the back of the couch, frankly, and I said to my officials after I'd spoken to the primary Principals Collective Bargaining Union, and they came to me and said, Minister, we need to make sure that all of our schools have access to this. And I said to the Ministry, I need you to go away and find me the money, and they did find that in an underspend. So it's not being cut from anywhere, it is literally just an underspend.
The government already has a focus on 1 hour of reading, writing and maths. Are these interventions on top of that?
No, these are included. So in that hour of literacy or reading and writing a day, especially in reading, you will see what you saw today: structured learning, explicit teaching, serve and return, where the children are speaking back to the teacher so that it's getting things in their long-term memory. So all of the resources we're providing are within that hour a day.
And on maths intervention, that's 4 classes a week for 30 minutes. When will students be learning this? Will it be during breaks or after school, or will students miss out on other things?
We've given schools ultimate flexibility with that. So they may do it during lunchtime, they may do it after school, they may do it during a maths class and cluster the children together, but it really is up to schools because they need that flexibility.
Lastly on the survivors, Survivor Feti Taito asked the government to organise that the sculpture that was presented at Parliament on the day of the apology be taken around the country so other survivors can see. Can you commit to that happening?
We're having discussions with the Crown Response Office at the moment about the final resting place for that beautiful piece of art, and we are having discussions about what we do next, but we haven't made any decisions just yet.
That song you could hear is actually our school bell, and all the kids are going to come pouring out soon. So.
Okay,
That's right.
last
That's
one.
right. No,
Okay, sorry, just one more. How confident are, what's been the feedback you've had about the new curriculum now that the website is live ahead of the
It has been phenomenal, and can I just say from this school, I was here last week and the feedback was overwhelming. I think the deputy said to me that she danced a jig when she saw that highly structured year-by-year curriculum that told teachers exactly what they needed to teach every year. Teachers have been asking us for that level of detail for a long time. It has been overwhelmingly positive, both the English and the maths curriculums.
Awesome. Thanks, team. Appreciate it.